We're happy to receive you on Talking Point. We are having as guest today Dr. Nick NGWANYAM. Doctor, thanks for accepting our invitation once again.
Thank you.
We're always very happy to have you, especially when critical issues are to be discussed.
I hope that will be up to the task.
Doc, we want to start with some of the striking things that caught your attention. You watch news, you are here early enough, and of course you watch news from start to finish.
That's right. I think I was looking at this element coming from Gandhi and it's making me laugh. I mean, Professor Nyamdi should realize that he's a civil servant like anyone else and should go wherever he is sent to work. And the people in Gandhi, that's Cameroon, and as a civil servant, you're called upon to work anywhere. I don't know why he thinks that he's special and that because he's close to the president, there's something special about that. No, it's not written anywhere that when you are close to the president, you cannot work anywhere else in the country. And I think that is what has killed this nation, where some people think that they're so close to the president that they can break the laws, they can do whatever they want. And I think that is completely wrong, and he's giving the youths a very wrong example.
Professor NGWANYAM says he's not been transferred. He uses a word in French that his documents have been mis à la disposition de l'université de Gandhi, giving the impression that it's quite different from what obtains in a normal transfer.
Well, if he doesn't believe that, then he can go rent a house in Gandhi and stay in Gandhi, but he is not allowed to teach in Eric. It's just as simple as that. He can do whatever he wants.
And when you watch the move of the rector of the university coming to disperse those who came to say welcome Professor NGWANYAM,
it's part of Cartier activity. She's not supposed to do that. I mean, she would have just left them alone. They would have done whatever they are doing. I mean, they are all educated professors and they are all CPDM hierarchy. So you see, it's part of that cacophony and confusion the way we do business. It's so unhealthy. It's Cartier kind of behavior.
One of the issues before we move out of this is Professor NGWANYAM in his interviews gives the impression or gives the understanding that there's some political witch hunting.
Well, if there are people who are supposed to complain about political witch hunting, it's Northwest and Southwest, not him. I mean, he's just, I don't know why everybody thinks that he must be appointed. Where is it written that he has something special about him and that he must be appointed? If he choose to be singing the praises to President Paul Biya never promised him that you sing praises to me. President Paul Biya never promised him that if you sing praises to me, I would appoint you. So I don't see what the noise is all about.
Professor NGWANYAM, he insisting, of course, you got him there also insisting that he's a member of the CPDM Central Committee, he's a law-abiding citizen. He decided to come to Gandhi despite what he says are political or administrative blunders and errors.
No, the nation does not belong to CPDM. The nation belongs to Cameroonians, and he is a civil servant and he's called to work there. If he doesn't like it, he can resign.
One of the major things that is at the center of debate, one of the major things at the center of debates now in Cameroon is COVID-19 and the vaccines. Though we just watched a report from the Northwest region where the delegates for public health, Dr. Chair Kingsley, saw calls on the people of the Northwest region to shy away from what he says are conspiracy theories and theories that are meant to discourage people from getting themselves available for vaccination against COVID-19.
Yeah, he's right. He's right in saying so, but you cannot really just blame the people for shying away. They are shying away for a reason, and it's left to us to understand why they are shying away and to help them understand that they are not going to be risking themselves if they come for the vaccines. And like I was saying sometime elsewhere, the problem is when a patient is sick and you go to a medical doctor here stands for anybody working in a hospital or a hospital service, there must be an element of trust. And when that element of trust is not there, if the bond is broken, then people are bound to feel uncomfortable because you're subjecting yourself to somebody and you think that that person is going to look after you and give you the best without hurting you. So if there's already a thought in one's mind that whatever you're going to do, there's a likelihood that they will be hurt, then of course they have a reason, and they have a reason to sit back a little bit and watch and try to ask questions about what you are doing, and you don't just expect people to throw themselves at you as if they were sheep. It's wrong. So it is left to the health personnel, it's left to the government, it's left to everybody to educate the public and tell them, look, it is in your best interest that we take this vaccine, and in so doing you show the good example And when the population is looking at what you have done before and what you are forcing them to do now, they say, look, in the past you have not shown us any sense of excellence in the way you do business, so we're not just going to trust you blindly, especially when Americans, everyone else is not trusting what is happening. It's not like it's just Cameroonians. The world over, there are a lot of questions being asked, but no answers are forthcoming.
Particularly to COVID-19, it looks like we've not always had this kind of distrust from the population vis-a-vis vaccines or the management of vaccines or from public health officials.
Yes,
what is
of
so
course.
particular about COVID-19?
What is particular about COVID-19 is that there are so many unanswered questions about it. And in as much as many of these unanswered questions are the world over, but we come into our environment and then we do business a la Cameroonese, which creates even more confusion. Like I was saying somewhere else, in the first phase of the COVID-19, you see that a lot of people, they followed the instructions of government with hand washing, distancing, mask wearing, and so on, and it was very effective. But this time around, you realize that there's those buckets are standing everywhere, no water, no soap, and what have you, and you are wondering what is going on. People are crowded. You see, like in Douala, in Marché Central, at Carrefour, what do you call some Carrefour over there, where it's very crowded like that, Ndokoti, and so something is happening is because when you are doing something and it doesn't make sense and there's no consistency, people are bound to kind of like sit back a little bit, because when the government gave the instructions, people were following the instructions. Then somewhere along the line, when they were lifting the ban, they lifted the ban for the bars. And in Cameroon, you gave the impression that drinking was more important than many other activities, and then people just got lost in alcohol, and the sachet whiskeys and everything, they showed up again, and people in their drunken state, it's very difficult to kind of like analyze that to make sense. That said, even the money that the government made available, the World Bank or whoever made available for the COVID-19, most of those funds disappeared into places that we don't know. So when things like this are happening, people don't trust the system.
Yes, talking about consistency, I got you there outlining the fact that when it came to lifting measures, some sectors measures were maintained for some cases, and in other cases measures lifted. You cited the issues about bars and so on, but can that also not be attributed to some sort of irresponsible behavior from the population when you want to look at the fact that they are no longer washing their hands regularly, they are no longer maintaining social distancing, whereas the measures are still there in place by the government, as reiterated by the Prime Minister most recently?
No, it's not about telling people. When you just tell people, and because you have a big stamp and whatever, and you think they would obey because you're a big man, it doesn't work like that. It's about trust. People have to trust you, and then you have to always be showing the way, leading them and educating them and doing the right things. And whatever you do, you have to do it in along with the population.
Yes.
And once you do that, the population comes with you, and you'll be able to get some results. But that said, even if we're not having results with the COVID issue, it is because of a general malaise in the nation, where you've had bad governance and bad management in many sectors and so on, so that it shows. If you go to countries where they were doing business properly without the COVID-19, when the COVID-19 comes, it's easy to manage it because the structures are there and many things are working. But you come into a system that is chaotic, where nothing works. Okay,
it means even before the what you say, the poor or that is inconsistent management of COVID-19, there was already some distrust.
That is right. That's right. The way we manage ourselves, the way we do business, the economics is not working. Nothing is working. So when nothing is working, the COVID-19 comes to make a bad situation worse. Are you getting what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Then you are trying to correct that situation with the COVID situation in a bad foundation. That's when you are having a lot of difficulties, and because the COVID challenged our economic systems.
And with the management of COVID fund, what management of these funds meant for COVID, how have they then contributed in creating or distancing the gap, widening the gap between the people and the government in terms of trust?
Well, if you take a good example, you remember there was some chief in some village somewhere where the prefect went and gave him some buckets, some black buckets like
Yes,
that for
that was
concrete.
in the south region.
Yes, and then the man genuinely complained, said, "Look, I don't like this buckets. How do we use it?" And then he was insulted and abused and threatened by the SDO. So the SDO was doing the wrong thing. Kind of like breathing down on the people. It is that approach. It's that approach where you treat people as if they are kids. If you come and you want people to be part of something that you are doing and you want them to behave properly, you have to get them to understand what you are doing, and there should be that rapport. But when you break the rapport and you think that you can just keep urinating on people and getting them to work, it doesn't work like that.
There's been this recent move from the government or the key stakeholders in public health. I want to talk about the fact that the minister Manahuda Malashi went ahead to take his jab in Yaoundé when the vaccines just arrived. Is that not worthy enough to give trust to the people to say, oh, we are not just pushing you people into this, we too, we need this, and we are putting up an example?
I think he has every reason to have taken the jab first, and all his collaborators and more should actually take the jab. Not that we don't trust the jab. I think the jab is great, and by taking that jab, he encourages everybody to take it, and it's a good thing. And I was going to say that when you look at the way those funds were distributed, many ministers had a lot of money and we don't know what they did with the money. But I can still remember that at least the Minister of Territorial Administration, even with the little he had, he was running around giving some buckets, and that was something we could see. Whether that was effective or not is another thing, but at least we could see something happening. But he looks like he got only 1 billion or something out of it, though there were some other billions that were hanging left and right. But on a whole,
people should have actually been given a transparent account on how that money was.
We are not accountable in the way we do business.
And most of the people say the fact that we recently saw some documents asking of some serious auditing into how that money was used wasn't because the money was actually mismanaged, but it was because it was necessary for a second funding to come from the world, that is the IMF.
Yes, I mean to be audited is not a crime, it's not a bad thing, it's been normal. You give account of how you use things. I mean, it's just because people have been used to just doing whatever they want. So when there's an audit, it looks like something was abnormal. But of course, people who didn't use the funds well, there would be a lot of trouble, because I mean, when you take the Ministry of Scientific Research, they told us about some Nivaquine that we never. I don't know whether you saw the Nivaquine, my piece in the hospitals. I don't know. Then that there was going to be some Fimbagras or something like that, but that was it, and there was nothing else. And that was, we are talking of 6 billion or I don't know how many billions. So it's crazy.
And it comes to talk to that portray a very bigger image of the lack of transparency, accountability in most of those cases, because it should be normal that after a budget is given to you, at the end of the day, you give an account on how the money was used, especially when it's public funds.
Yes, but you know that in Cameroon there's been a lot of problems because people steal a lot from the state budget, and it's a very bad habit. And worst of all, when it comes to the management of COVID, what we're supposed to do is to train ourselves to produce most of the things that we need, and to be able to solve our own problems ourselves. Even the mask, we have to import them. Things as simple as hand sanitizers. We go importing little problems. And I remember just when COVID started, there was a technical college somewhere in Yaoundé that were trying to make face masks, and the Minister of Secondary Education went there and insulted them, which I think is wrong. I mean, we were supposed to build our capacities so that we can manage our things. Because now, even as much as we complain about the vaccines, we should be in a position to make our own vaccines. After all, our nation has been making vaccines, for animal use somewhere in the northern boundary somewhere for years now. And it's true that making vaccines for COVID-19 is a little bit more tricky, but when you are looking at the Sinopharm vaccine, the Sputnik vaccine, which is Russian, and then the AstraZeneca, and I think Johnson, they have made those vaccines, if I'm not mistaken, using the old technology for making vaccines. So if even African countries, if they had pulled together, some of their scientists pulled together their energies, would have been able to make some of the vaccines instead of running after other people and complaining all the time.
And you cite importing the vaccines, and I was about to come to that because just today we followed declarations that Cameroon is due to receive this quantity of Sputnik, for example, Johnson's, for example, this quantity. Cameroon is also expected to receive AstraZeneca, which was initially the rollout was initially ordered by the Minister of Public Health, and then we received the Chinese vaccines already. It means Cameroon is considering a lot of these vaccines. Is it an advantage or a disadvantage, though?
It's an advantage to an extent. I mean, and I would say again that, you know, if you look at the vaccines clearly, the vaccines that are on the market are in two categories, depending on the way they are made. Like as I was saying, that the vaccines that use the whole virus and the technique for making the viruses, I mean the vaccines are the old technology, we know the technology and we know what the other additions and components are. Then there's this other technique that is used by Pfizer that is using messenger RNA, and the technology is is new and poorly understood, and we don't know what the long-term effects are. And therefore when we are looking at things like modified foods, you know, there's some modified foods, I've forgotten, genetically modified foods, with all sorts of other things that are happening around the world, you know, modifying genes and so on. When you start putting in things that could modify the genetic nature of man, then that's a little bit tricky. So you can understand all.
Then why would the government then go ahead to want to import AstraZeneca, for example, and Johnson's and Johnson, where we've had reports of blood cloth with regards to these vaccines?
It's well, I'm sure they're looking at it very cautiously, and somebody's done some studies. But even though we take the it's called Sinopharm or whatever, yes. But you know, the Chinese also are so secretive that you never can tell exactly what they're doing.
And now, with this tense debate or this vaccines, Doc, I'm following it on WhatsApp. Are you for or against the opinion that these vaccines be administered compulsorily on people?
The vaccine should be made available to Cameroonians, not compulsorily, but if you feel like it, you can go and take it. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, I would say that even though it is not compulsory, it should be compulsory for people that take decisions. All right? It should be compulsory for people that take decisions. And then in the third place, I would encourage that the government should set aside some funds, because of course when we set funds in Cameroon, they always disappear. But they should set apart some funds, and some emergency funds, just in case anybody in the community takes the vaccine and runs into trouble. Those money from there can be used to look after such people, and they should not just be abandoned to themselves.
And finally, the vaccines have been sent into the crisis hit regions, the northwest and southwest regions, with the uncertainty that they can be easily administered in very remote areas where we know access has been very difficult, all this while because of security issues.
No, the vaccines can go there by military, whatever, helicopter or whatever. And don't forget that we had great elections even when the war was going on, so that's not a problem.
No, the elections actually took place in centers, urban centers. We had, how did they call it? They brought some polling stations together. Is that what is going to take place, for example, in the Donga Mountain, for example? A lot of polling stations were centered in Kambe, and in the Mezam, in Lord, in Bamenda, and so what we're going to have this.
I was joking. I mean, if we say that the war is over, then we should be able to go in there and vaccinate our people, period.
Thanks, Dr. Nick NGWANYAM. It was an interesting chat for you, Doc.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're happy that you stayed with us. Stay in the company of interesting programs on Equinox Television.